You're listening to the Grind Line Podcast.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Grind Line Podcast. You're listening to episode 308. I am your host, Greg. I am here tonight with Ryan. The Red Wings are currently on a 7-game win streak. They are in second intermission playing the San Jose Sharks right now, currently losing 2-1. One goal I will directly blame Ville Husso for.
Yep.
The other one, not so much, but the one where he lifted his leg to let the puck go underneath, I will say that one is his fault. But we do have a show tonight.
Kind of on both then. I thought you were going to talk about the first one, but the second one, absolutely.
Yeah, well, the second one I will say absolutely. But we do have a show tonight. We have 2 wins to talk about, a poll I ran on Twitter, some leaked stuff, and an emerging player. But Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. They need to get their shit together. They've kind of playing down to and less than the competition tonight, so it's a little bit frustrating. But at the same time, it's not a surprise with how San Jose has really looked throughout the season. So there's still hope going into the third.
Yeah, seeing Ville Husso, seeing the report is like, Ville Husso is going to play tonight. I'm like, uh-oh. Because Ville Husso is either really hot or really cold, and there's been no in between.
No.
And he started by letting in 2 goals on 4 shots. It was not great. He had made he just made some really good saves at the end of the second. So we'll see how this third works. They are going to have to go out there and play hockey like they played the first period against Seattle. Just go out there and storm it. Storm the goalie, throw everything on him. We'll talk about the Seattle game. First, though, I do want to start with the Blackhawks game. The Detroit Red Wings beat the Chicago Blackhawks 5-3. It was kind of expected to beat the Blackhawks. I mean, they're the literal worst team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Your top performers in that game, Lucas Raymond, Marco Kasper, Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat. And overall, I mean, good game. Your goal scorers were Alex DeBrincat, Marco Kasper, Lucas Raymond, Andrew Kopp, and Albert Johansson. And your assists, you had 3 assists by Patrick Kane, 1 by Kasper, 1 by Raymond. Edvinsson, Gustafsson, Hull were your assists. Your goalie was Cam Talbot. He faced 15 shots, made 12 saves for an .800 save percentage. Cam Talbot has not been great.
He's kind of been a little shaky since coming back from injury, has he not?
I would assume it's just nagging injury stuff. And then again, but that's not comforting. Like the whole nagging injury thing affecting you like that, not comforting.
I mean, that again, that's pure assumption that we're making. But at the same time, it's just like, what's going on? Because that was Mr. Reliable for, like we've seen the last several years. We're having a bit of deja vu of what's going to happen with goaltending right now. And it's at the worst possible time to have that happen going into this road trip that's impending doom.
Yeah, the Chicago game, I think, was really good. It was a pretty impressive game. They went out and they played a really good brand of hockey. Like I said, they only allowed 15 shots from the Blackhawks. They put 27 shots on net against the Hawks. And Peter Mrazek was vintage Peter Mrazek, overplays his position or underplays his position and just lets in goals. I mean, a complete game. Like I said, your most notable performer in that game was Lucas Raymond and then Marco Kasper. Marco Kasper is a guy, after they put him on that top line, he has performed extremely well. And like we said, it gives you a guy that can go in and battle for a puck. I mean, the goal that was set up, Albert Johansson's goal, that was a beautiful setup by Lucas Raymond, would not have happened if Marco Kasper had not gone and dug that puck out, had done that work against the boards to get that puck to Raymond, to then dish to Kasper. That was 100% like hard work by Marco Kasper.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what they need too. I mean, it's not to say that Joe Veleno wasn't doing that, but what we've kind of talked about before is Kasper brings a different skill set than Veleno, much more offensive minded, even though defensively you could argue they're the same type of player. And what I mean by that, defensively, they're going to pressure the hell out of you. And they're going to get that puck back. Now it's just what's going to happen once one of those A or B gets the puck. That's, I think, where the difference for Kasper stands out at. And I kind of touched on, I want to say a little bit last week, I really would have liked to have seen Kasper in place of Kopp. But that's why I sit here and make judgments that don't make any sense from behind a microphone and the old X app. Because the coaches traded Kasper with Veleno, not Kopp. worked out great. You saw Volano get a goal. Now Casper's just kind of cemented himself there. And it's not for a lack of trying at this point. I mean, he got credit for the goal the other night, which amazingly happened. But you like what he's brought to this line, and we've even seen it tonight that he is. It's like right there where he's just about to finally have those goals click. How long can we continue to say that? I don't know, but it's not for a lack of effort to this point because he's really been helping Raymond and Larkin separate themselves from the defense.
Yeah, and Marco Kasper is not a guy that we expect to go out and score 30, 40 goals a season. We expect it to be offset the maybe under, I don't want to call it underproduction, but the not extremely high offense is offset by his, like I said, you go board battle, you have defensive play, you have a very strong back check. But again, you're going to get points. If you look at the Seattle game, the Detroit Red Wings beat the Seattle Kraken 6-2. Like came out in the first like 7 minutes of the game or 6 minutes of the game, scored 4 goals. It was the fastest they had done that in like years. I don't have the date in front of me. It was extreme. It was like the 40s, like when they did that before. And Marco Kasper is rewarded with 2 points in that game too, a goal and an assist against the Seattle Kraken. The first goal that we thought was Dylan Larkin's went off of Marco Kasper. And again, it's a guy that is, I don't want to say emerging because we knew that he had the skill. He needed the time to put it in. And what had happened initially, Todd had said, we want to see how the vets are doing and what they've got. And by all intents and purposes, Joe Veleno would be considered, I guess, a veteran player on his team at least. And he's got he's got 2 seasons at least on the team. He wants to see what the established players have. And then he's going to switch him out for some rookies. And we had talked about it. He's told Joe, he's like, it's not for a lack of you trying. We want to give Marco a chance. And they're giving him a chance, and he's going out there and he is, I think not only meeting expectations, but the last 2 games exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
Your top performer. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying the biggest thing, there's points coming from it too. And that was kind of the missing factor, I would argue, with Volano. Not saying that he had been completely dry from the well, but you're seeing the fruits of the labor, to your point, with Casper being out there, caught wreaking havoc, getting a goal for just being in net front at this point. And that's the type of puck luck you need when you're on the wing of a guy like Larkin and Raymond.
But it's being able to be aware. Casper, I think one of his best things is his awareness. Like he's got really good vision and really good hockey IQ. He, like you said, though, he just needs the opportunity to use it and needs to be paired with players that it complements. Sticking him on the 4th line does not do a lot for him. Can he fill that role because he is a good grinder? He's a good forechecker. Yes, he can fill that role. But I think he excels in a role with better players around him because of his hockey IQ and his ability to read a play.
And it just kind of felt like he was just there. He was it felt like more of a bystander on the 4th line.
Is a passenger.
Kasper was, yeah. But I mean, you could twist that though, because even when they were 3rd and 4th line, but when you saw the Grand Rapids group together, so Kasper, Berggren, and Volano, there was a true chemistry with that line. It was awesome. But when it was Kasper with Mott and Rasmussen, it just there wasn't a vibe. And then Volano goes there. We've already seen what he can do with those other 2 as it is. And they clicked, but leads to a goal. You're like, wow, that was great. Awesome. Love it. And now we're kind of starting to see that with Kasper a bit because he's playing with that pep in his step, if you will.
Yeah, just overall impressive past couple games for Marco Kasper. The Seattle Kraken game, your top performers were Albert Johansson, Patrick Kane, Simon Edvinsson, Dylan Larkin, Eric Gustafsson, who has also had a little bit of a renaissance recently. Eric Gustafsson, when you use him correctly, seems to be rather effective. Who knew? Your lowest performing players against the Kraken, Ben Sherratt, Jonathan Berggren. Moritz Seider is on the low end as far as team stats, has very high individual stats. Tyler Mott, Justin Hull. But again, you beat that team 6-2. Your goal scorers are Gustafsson, Kane, Kasper, Larkin, Comfer, Alex DeBrincat, and assists by basically the same players, but throw in Raymond, Seider, Tarasenko, Andrew Kopp, and Albert Johansson. Albert Johansson is the other guy that I want to talk about tonight as kind of another emerging player next to Marco Kasper. If you look at it, and it was just these past couple games where you said, if you give Albert Johansson the chance, if you play him pretty consistently, and since Petrie went down, Johansson has gotten consistent opportunities. I think to the point where when Petrie comes back, I have a real hard time sitting Johansson. Like, you're going to sit whole at that point, I would think. And I have a really hard time taking Johansson off of the second pair because he's done exceedingly well with Simon Edvinsson.
Yes.
To the point where if you look at his underlying stats, and I pulled a couple, JFresh, a 46% projected WAR with a 13 EV offense and a 61 defense. He's not going to be an offensive defenseman. He is your shutdown guy who will chip in maybe when he can, but he really excels at locking down the play and defending. And that's also reflected in the evolving hockey chart where he has a positive GAR and XGAR on defense. And he's a guy that I think now, because he's getting that time and he's getting to play with a really good player in Simon Edvinsson, that he's really been able to show what he can do at that next level.
Sorry, I'm watching this replay of another utter defensive
Awful Husso
breakdown
goal
of Ben Sherratt not knowing where anyone on the ice is at this point. He has, of all the players that I thought were starting to do better, he has gone back to complete shit. Aljo has looked great, to your point. Sherratt has been Ben Sherratt that we grew accustomed to hating after all this time. Because right now, because he just was there as a person, basically non-existent as a defenseman.
Mo chases the puck. Ben goes down
San
low.
Jose had a wide open net. So yeah, you have
goes behind the
Celebrini.
net.
All it was a simple puck thrown across the ice. Like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, one drifts. So Larkin, I'd blame a little bit, quite a bit here too, because he's all over the place. Sherratt and him were not in communication. Left the back door wide open. This is the Malone era defensive play right now, where they're just coasting, hoping to find a man and praying that it hits their stick. That was just a terrible defensive effort. On top of the fact that Husso hasn't been outstanding. That's 3 goals now on 16 shots. One of them, that one, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The second one, as you mentioned, missed it. I don't know what the hell. Like, you could put that up there with the Reimer duck with the way he kicked in to the freaking
lifted his leg up
for no reason. The first one I'm still pissed off about because he's just like, he puts himself out of position because he's leaning to see around the Red Wings defender when he had to do any of that. To your point about Johansson, like, him and Gustafsson in particular have seen a bit of a resurgence with the coaching change. There's a bit more trust, it seems. They're put into, I think, positions, to your point, that have more suited their role. And with Johansson now with Edvinsson, that's goes back to the Grand Rapids piece with forward group. There's familiarization there. They're able to play off each other's strengths and weaknesses a little bit better. And you're just like, okay, yeah, let's go see what you can do. But he's also stepped up to the challenge a bit. And I think that's been extremely beneficial for not only him, but the defensive core as a whole. It lets Edvinsson keep doing what he's doing, be aggressive offensively. Aljo's been much more patient, if you will. But I mean, at this point, like, going back to what happens when Jeff Petrie returns, I mean, I think it's a pretty straightforward decision. You're looking at Justin Hull or Ben Sherratt as the odd man out if you really wanted to go that far. Sherratt has not been great of late. Yeah, the fancy stats were loving him for quite a while, especially the stat cards that you post. But tonight, last few games, he's just been overly aggressive, chasing the puck, being out of position. And you're just like, what, dude, why all of these things that screwed you over, you're doing again for no reason?
Like I said, in the Seattle game, Ben Sherratt was your worst player. But normally, like, when I say, like, yeah, Mo Seider's in the bottom 3, but all his individual stats were positive, Ben Sherratt has, like, no positive stats against the Kraken. And then tonight, like you said, he's a very big reason that it's now 3-1 instead of 2-1. So Ben Sherratt, maybe you give him a day in the press box just to kind of cool off and see the game from up top and reset himself, because yeah, he was doing much better. Yeah. And now he's reverted pretty far.
It's like he almost has too much confidence, which I don't know if that's even possible, but you're finding yourself now at the tail end of a bad situation more often than not. And usually when a goal is taking place against Detroit right now, odds are good you're going to find Ben Sherratt on the ice. And this is what I refer to when you go back to the last really 2 years when really bad things happen. There's a certain 1 or 2 players that you usually could almost guarantee were there when it happened. Not saying that's all the time, but the odds are good.
Albert Johansson is not one of those players right now. And I think the
thankfully.
big thing that Johansson has provided is a lot of what this team needed, which was a stable defensive defenseman. Some
But he
guy
can
that
move the
really
puck.
but that didn't really have many defensive mistakes in his game, and just be able to go out there and give you solid play on a nightly basis, which it looks like that's what he can do going forward. We were saying, what is Albert Johansson's ceiling? And I think his ceiling is you're probably going to play him as a third pair defenseman, maybe a second pair defenseman when you need to. Like, that's what he's doing right now. But I think he can be an extremely solid third pair defense, like probably one of the better third pair defensemen, which I don't know how much that's saying, but one of the better third pair defensemen, simply because he can go out there and play with the tough players who you're normally matching that pair up with and just lock stuff down.
Well, I think what's important to that is if you can be your third pair defenseman, but at the same time, he's a guy that you can put out there in any situation, you're going to be okay with it. I think that's where that kind of differentiates itself, because that means that you've got a guy you can trust in all situations. But when it comes to playoff time in particular, that's where that depth piece really becomes extra important, because you need to have everyone firing on all cylinders and be able to go out there in any situation and take advantage of it. What that fully entails, we don't know, because, well, they need to make the fucking playoffs.
Yeah. But for right now, I think he's a guy to watch. He's impressed me so far. He's only 23 years old. He's on an entry level deal, so he costs you like nothing. And I think that the more he plays, just the more he's going to be able to get comfortable and show just how good he can be at the NHL level. And it's been really cool to watch. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. Word from our sponsors. We'll come back. We'll talk about a poll that was run on Twitter. And if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about a leaked puck that may have made its rounds online. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. From the chill of the arena to skates on ice and people hitting the boards, an NHL game is a sports experience like none other. And when you are looking for tickets, your pick should be Game Time. Game Time is the only app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. And see the great seats with Game Time picks and see the view from your seat on your phone before you buy your tickets. All-in pricing shows you your total cost up front, and you can buy tickets in seconds with just a couple taps. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% off the difference. With event cancellation policies that automatically refund your tickets and 24-hour returns guaranteed, you are protected with the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. You know we're always down for betting on teams like the Detroit Lions, who have absolutely no quit after laying the smackdown on the Minnesota Vikings this week. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And we're back. And what we're going to talk about next is I ran a poll over on Twitter with 1,065 votes in. The question was, if the Detroit Red Wings are within 4 points of a playoff spot by the end of February, should they buy at the trade deadline, and who are your targets? Resounding 73.3% of people said yes, 26.7% said no, but there was a common theme throughout the responses. Not so much players to target. There you go, Tarasenko. 2 goals? 2 goals for Vladimir Tarasenko tonight?
How delayed is my stream? Oh, what a shot.
Right? So 73% of people said yes, 26% said no. And the resounding theme throughout the responses was, I only want to buy at the deadline if it's someone that is going to be here long term. And which is kind of something that we have been talking about in the past, I don't know, month and a half, is that if you're going to make some trades, you probably want to look for a guy that has some term left on his contract that is young.
Mhm.
And everyone's like, I don't want a rental. I don't want a rental. My counterpoint to that was they could go out and get a rental if it is a guy that you intend to re-sign past the end of this season, and that you have a discussion with him or an extension in place before you trade for him. Someone had mentioned you don't want to get Genseled. Basically trading a bunch for Gensel and then having him leave and go to a different team in the offseason.
Well, yeah.
You want basically a deal in place with that player before you trade for them. But I agree with that. I do think that if they're within 4 points of a playoff spot by the end of February, that they should go out and make an impactful move, but not just one for this season, one that will carry forward into next season and beyond.
Well, here's the thing with that too, is that you've got a GM now that's going to have to eat his own words. Because when you came out, flat out said at the coaching change, I expect this team, or expected, kind of use that phrase a bit, to that this team should be making the playoffs. And right on cue, we praise Johansson and he gets a penalty. Okay. But you've got a team that's, they're going to be knocking on the door to the playoffs coming to the trade deadline, you need to think that the expectation is I need to get this team there, because now you're really going to have a rabid fan base. And we've touched on this a little bit before. You're at the point, the expectation is there by your own doing, not just the fan base. The fan base, bunch of crazies, even going back the last 2 years, argue you probably should be in the playoffs or should have been in the playoffs. And we've pushed back on that logic quite a bit. This year in particular, I get it. There's still going to be change going into next season. We know that the roster is going to be different. There's going to be a couple of younger players now that you're finally going to start impacting this NHL caliber roster that are going to bring a different talent that we haven't seen for many years. Not saying that we're not seeing it from a guy like Lucas Raymond and the sort, but we haven't seen really the true impact since Larkin from young guys. Raymond, I think, is the exception. Sider, you can go either way with, depending on when you want to argue. He was truly making this roster and being a big deal. So if you're close, you got to do something, because if not, if your move is maybe only doing something internally, say a Nate Danielson, not saying that's going to be a bad thing, but to throw all your weight on a rookie to try to help you get to the playoffs, that's a dangerous card to play. Same thing if you maybe look at Axel Sandin Pelika. If his season ends early, is he going to be able to make it to Detroit in time? I doubt it. I think that season goes a little bit too long, but you
I
could
think
likely see
mid-March.
him making that. It's potentially, yeah. But
Yeah.
you're more likely to see him maybe with Grand Rapids making their playoff push. I think if you're close, I got to agree with the poll here. You got to make a move to not only help your team get there and stay there, all right, let me rephrase that. Get there this season for the playoffs. You need that playoff game at LCA. There's no doubt about it. You haven't had it yet. That place, we've already heard how loud it can be in the regular season. It is going to be an incredible atmosphere, and they need it. But outside of that, to your point, like, you make a trade that's going to be a short-term move, I don't think that benefits you. I don't really think anyone would disagree with that. But at the same time, do you do it, even if it's an expiring deal, knowing that there is going to be almost an embarrassment of riches in the UFA field? So there's a lot to weigh. Like, do you do it just to get to the playoffs and then see what happens, as long as you're not mortgaging a lot to do it? That could be worth it. And then in the offseason, you really make that push, be like, all right, we got the taste. Let's make it happen.
God damn it, Billy Huso. Jesus Christ.
I'm seeing the miss.
Stop a puck challenge. Billy Huso fails.
He cannot move side to side.
He can't move at all. He is so bad.
The defense was terrible right there. Again, a breakdown on the PK. Like, everyone just collapsed to the near boards.
Yep.
Edmondson crashed. Who's on top there? Bolano crashed down. Who came down to the bottom
Pop.
boards? Justin Hall out of position. Who was the backdoor guy? Cop was over. I don't know what the hell he was watching. And then Huso apparently has no side to side ability. Like this has been this sums up the night right here. Is they have been terrible defensively.
So I think that brings up a good point, though, in making those moves that can carry you not only to playoffs this season but next season. But you also mentioned UFAs. Do you think that maybe those teams that we are targeting, those free that are currently have guys that are expected to be free agents that we would like maybe a Mitch Marner, maybe a Mikko Rantanen, if those teams know they're not going to re-sign those players, you might have to give something up for them at the trade line to kind of secure those guys that you want. Even though, I mean, you could take your chances and wait until they hit free agency. And if they get traded, you might just be SOL.
I don't know if they're going to want to trade them, but to get either of those guys is going to cost you, I think, more than what Detroit can offer. And really, what I mean by that is you're going to give up really important pieces that are not only outside of just the draft pick compensation. I'm kind of past the draft pick conversation at this point. Send it. You have too many guys now that you're waiting on to try to make that impact that you need them to make it happen. So send picks, but are you willing to part ways with? I don't know. I mean, I think a Kasper is an easy one to say, yeah, see ya. But then you're looking at a possible Danielson. If you're talking about a Marner or Rantanen, I think the conversation is going to center around an MBN, Brandon Nygaard, or a Nate Danielson, Sandy, an ASP. I mean, there are going to have to be players you're uncomfortable with talking about in a trade to be traded. And I don't think that Detroit can afford at least that aspect because it's going to be several, not just one or two, meaning more than two.
I think that ASP is probably an untouchable prospect currently, simply because everything looks like it's there for him to be an extremely impactful player. He has been an extremely impactful player, but he's like setting records in the SHL and he's doing all this as like a super young guy. And I think him and Larkin and Raymond and Mo Sider are probably your only like untouchables. And Sebastian one of Kosa or Augustine, probably. Yeah, another guy that would be tough to trade. Not tough to trade, but tough to trade from the position you're currently in that you wouldn't want to trade him is Alex DeBrincat. I think Alex DeBrincat is another guy that you've got him on a good deal. He is actually, he has looked really good this season. DeBrincat has. And he provides you a high level of offense, but also has really improved his defensive play and has shown that playmaking that Yzerman says he has. So I think if you look at you maybe have 4 players on this team that you're not going to trade, and you've got maybe 2 prospects that you would be against, like completely against trade. Oh, add Edvinson to that list too. But you've got probably 2 or maybe 3 prospects that you would be against trading. But I think that's it. I think literally everything else is on the table. I think picks should be on the table, especially if you say, yeah, we'll trade you a 2026 pick protected. Fine. That's fine. Top 10 protected or whatever, because you're hoping that within the next 2 seasons, you're picking in the 20s. That's what you're hoping. And you can afford to give up a pick like that because you have good prospects, because you've got cap space to sign free agents, and because you have these guys moving in that are supposed to be high level players. Now, whether they hit that or not, you don't know. But for all these people that's saying, I'm not gonna trade a pick. We can't be trading our picks. Now is when you can start trading picks.
No, you're past that point, in my opinion.
Huso can't stop a puck. Nothing. Can't stop anything.
Well, you know how we were talking about Ben Sherratt is usually the guy that you can rely on to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's been Justin Hall tonight. And of course, they spotlight him coming off the ice. What the hell was that?
You know, the fucking Sharks, who have like the highest goal differential, lowest goal differential in the league, put up 5 on you on 21.
5 goals. I don't know. The way the team is playing tonight just kind of had me everything in my head just go away, because defensively, this is probably one of the worst games we've seen under McClellan yet. And I got nothing. It just doesn't make sense what the hell they're trying to accomplish right now. And here we go, Sherratt, the forward.
Now there's going to be fire and brimstone in the locker room after this game.
Going back to the pick piece, you need guys now to make this roster. I just touched on them. MBN, Nate Danielson next season, Carter Mazer, who's been out basically dead in zombie mode at this point, who's finally been seen back on the ice. There's certain players you need in Detroit next season. Axel Sandin Pelika. I'll get yelled at for however which way I say it. I don't care.
So if you say it both ways, you can't get yelled at.
Touche. You need him in Detroit next season. I'm sorry. There really is no way around it. You don't want to see a guy like Justin Hall on your third pair. You know, you do want to see on your third pair. You want to see ASP on your third pair, because guess what? Then you can throw him on your second offense or power play unit, and you're not going to be upset about it. You know why? Because he's been doing that in the SHL for the last 2 years and excelling at it. Hell, if he gets into it long enough, he takes over from Mo in that first power play unit. And guess what? He's still a righty. It's not going to impact anything, but he's even more impactful, arguably, than Seider will be. I'm not trying to take anything away from Seider offensively, because really, I think since the coaching change, we've seen him go to a different level that we probably thought was there that we hadn't gotten a piece of yet. But ASP in particular, offensively, is, as I've gone back to say before, a reincarnation of Brian Rafalski that we didn't realize we needed so badly.
Yeah, he's a specialist.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where we get into the really kind of exciting conversation, is looking at the roster next season and seeing what pieces could be brought in, and even 2 seasons from now, and going like, it's much, not to say it's much improved, like that it's bad now, but like you're ready at each time. And especially, I mean, it does take guys a bit to get acclimated to the NHL and get used to it, and you give them a season to kind of feel it out, and then you hope they don't sophomore slump. But it looks like, from what we have coming in, that we still have an extremely promising future going forward. We just need to get into the playoffs, and whether that's this season or next season, it does need to happen within the next 2 seasons, or there's going to be a lot of trouble. But Ryan, I think we're out of time today. We will talk about the
Stadium Series.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Stadium Series stuff. We get a little bit of more information. I want to get your final thoughts before we sign off tonight. And hopefully the Red Wings can get 2 goals within the next 5 minutes here.
No final thoughts. Well, tonight was not a good slogan for play fucking hockey. I'll put it simply. They have looked sluggish defensively. Offensively, they haven't looked bad, but they've really just allowed a team that is not good to stick around and really kind of make them look bad, for a lot of better words. And that's a bit frustrating, I think, in my unprofessional opinion. So hopefully we'll see some fight here in the final 5 minutes, but it's just has not been a good game, and it's very frustrating. Outside of that, go Lions. Beat the Commanders. Party Ryan 33.
Yeah, I got an email from Fanatics earlier. They are doing they're doing shirts to help support the LA Wildfires. So all the LA professional LA teams, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's hockey, they have shirts to support that. So you can check that out. I think if you just go right to Fanatics website or search Fanatics LA Strong, you will be able to find that 100% of the proceeds go to helping the people that are supporting the wildfire efforts. I think it's all goes to the Red Cross and the LA Fire Department Foundation. So you, like I said, just Google LA Strong Fanatics. You will find the shirts there. They're pretty cool. They're gray. They got the logo on them. But that is something that they're trying to do to help the efforts over there. Other than that, you can follow me online at Bringing the Wing. You follow the Grindline Podcast online at Grindline Pod. We give a shout out to the Hockey Podcast Network and thank them for spreading us around. Vintage Detroit, which is the only place you should get your Detroit jerseys from and worked on. And we do have new t-shirts up there right now. Not done much marketing around them yet because I'm waiting for Vintage to get their stuff together. But if you go there, click on the Keep It Local tab and click on the Grindline Podcast, we have 5 new designs up there for purchase that are, I think I did a good job on them. You can also go to YouTube, search Grindline Podcast, sub to us, turn on those notifications. You'll get notified whenever an episode goes live. But that is going to do it for us tonight. So for Ryan, I am Greg. You stay classy, Hockey Town.